Hello, I'm Shufang. Welcome back for our Week 12 lessons. This is Lesson 1. During this week, we will focus on the writing of argumentative essays, and we are going to cover the following subtopics. What is argumentation? What features does good argumentation have? How to make cogent arguments? How to brainstorm and organize different types of argumentative essays? What are some useful transitional expressions in an argumentative essay? Here in Lesson 1, we are going to deal with the first topic. What is argumentation? Now, take a look at the picture here. In our daily life, we are always faced with controversial situations or dilemmas. Issues such as whether we should ban animal testing or not always lead to arguments, since both the answer yes or no may have many proponents who can support their opinions with substantial reasons. What is your own perspective, and how can you successfully argue your case? Similarly, we may also encounter many troublesome problems we must analyze and propose solutions for. For instance, the internet has become so common in our daily lives that we can hardly imagine a day without it. Yet, we are faced with possible problems or even hazards associated with increasing internet use. What might these problems be, and can we find feasible solutions for them? All the above situations require us to put forth sound and compelling arguments, either to argue or defend our opinions. How can we make our arguments sound and persuasive? Through Lesson 1, we will gain a general understanding of argumentation. We will cover the following two topics. First, what is argumentation? Second, what are features of good argumentation? Let's start with the first topic. What is argumentation? Argumentation is a process of asserting the soundness of an opinion on a controversial topic. Argumentation always assumes controversy and involves the need to address conflicting viewpoints. In an argumentative essay, certain ideas should be made clear and sufficient evidence should be presented. In an argumentative essay, the writer uses clear thinking and logic to convince readers of the soundness of a particular viewpoint. In an argumentative essay, the writer should demonstrate respect for constructing viewpoints and those who hold them. Having an understanding of what argumentation is, it is much easier for us to identify the main purposes of our argument. We need to make an argument when we want to assert our opinions or to find solutions to a problem under discussion, and when our opinions are attacked, we will make arguments to defend our own viewpoints, to fight against opposing perspectives, or convince our opponents of the value of our opinion. Now, on to the second topic. What are the features of good argumentation? Generally speaking, good argumentation should consist of the following items. First, a debatable point. Second, sufficient evidence. Third, good logic. Fourth, tactful, courteous language. We are going to explain the items above one by one. Let's come to the first item, a debatable point. Please read the following statements and try to think whether they can be used to initiate an argument. First, Donald Trump is the current president of the United States. Second, Ba is my favorite author. Third, the ancient Chinese invented paper making. It is impossible for anyone to argue with the first statement, as it is completely based on verifiable fact. For such a statement, there are no reasonable differing opinions about them, thus making it pointless to write an argumentative essay about it. Similarly, the second statement is a personal preference, and the third one is a general belief. None of them can be regarded as a debatable point. Therefore, it would be unnecessary to develop any argument concerning them. By contrast, if we make some change to these statements, things will be different. Please read the three statements in red. The first one, Donald Trump is the best president the United States has ever had. This statement takes a stance on a highly controversial issue, and we will need to persuade readers who disagree with us. If we change the second and third statements in a similar fashion, we will make them arguable, and thus they would become proper initiators of arguments. Now, let's look at evidence. Various items can be used as evidence, ranging from statistics, examples, expert opinions, anecdotes, to observations, which we can choose to use in our argumentation within different contexts. The most important thing is that evidence must be sufficient, relevant, and representative. The next item we need to consider is the proper use of logic. The organization of our argumentation should display logical reasoning, using either deductive or inductive methods of reasoning. Induction is the process of reasoning from particular details to be general conclusions. It involves examining particular details, such as specific cases, facts, or examples. The conclusion is made based on the evidence coming from the specific details. For example, if we bought a bunch of grapes, when we taste the first one, it is sour. Then we taste the second one, sour too. So is the third one. We then draw this conclusion: the rest of the grapes were probably sour. This reasoning method is induction. There is another famous example of the inductive reasoning. To compose his Politics, Aristotle studied dozens of constitutions, and from them induced some general principles of political science. Now let's talk about deductive reasoning, the process of reasoning from the general to the specific. For example, when we have a major premise like this: no dogs have feathers, we also have a minor premise: Snowball is a dog. Then we can draw a conclusion: Snowball does not have feathers. In our own practice, we should try to make our writing logically acceptable. At the same time, we should try to avoid various kinds of logical fallacies and errors. Here, I have provided several examples of logical fallacies. First, the ad hominem argument, which means making personal attacks on individuals instead of refuting their viewpoint. Second, the strawman argument, which means attacked a point that does not really matter, such as attacking feminist thought by attacking the beliefs of a nut-job feminist, who declared that consensual sex between men and women is impossible, and therefore all men who have sex with women are rapists. Third, argument from ignorance or a non-testable hypothesis. For instance, God would want us to do that. Fourth, false dilemma or fallacy of the extended middle. For instance, if I prove you wrong, I must be right. Fifth, argument from authority or tradition. For instance, it is true because our forefathers declare it is true. Sixth, circular argument. For example, People are evil because to be a person is to be evil. 7. Argumentum ad populum, which means arguments such as everybody knows that. There are also many other examples of logical errors, which requires us to be careful as we craft our arguments. Finally, we need to pay attention to the language. We should be aware that to argue is not to quarrel. The force of an argument does not come from abuse, sarcasm, or fierce attacks, but arises from the presentation of solid evidence, logical reasoning, and careful analysis. Therefore, we shouldn't anger our readers by referring to them or their opinions in rude or belittling terms. Don't write things like that. Everybody knows that. Or only morons believe that. We should neither overstate nor understate matters and avoid using words like perhaps, sometimes, I think, which invariably weaken the force of our argument. Before we finish Lesson 1, let's review what we have mainly talked about. First, we have learned what argumentation is. Then, we have identified the features that make for good argumentation. That's all for Lesson 1. Thanks for listening. Look forward to seeing you again.